Unit 1, Lesson 4, the distributive property. So the learning goal for today's lesson is to learn how to use the distributive property. And basically what the distributive property does is it helps you to eliminate brackets using multiplication. Okay, so what does the following mean? So this here means 2 times 3x, right? Brackets mean multiply. Okay, so the distributive property teaches you how to do this, and it will teach you how to do this for more complex questions such as this. 2 times 3x plus 4x squared. Okay? So basically the way the distributive property works is you take the constant outside of the brackets and you multiply it by each of the terms inside of the brackets. So I would do 2 times 3x, and then I would do 2 times 4x squared. Okay? Now, when you are multiplying a coefficient, so that's the number outside of the brackets, by some terms inside of the brackets. Because our coefficient is just a plain number, it's just the number 2, when you multiply it by 3x, you only multiply it by the number part. So because this is a number, you only multiply the number. So 2x times 3x would be 6x. 2 times 3 is 6, and then the x stays there as well. Okay, same thing for this part. 2 times 4x squared, multiply the number parts together, so 2 times 4 is 8, and then there's nothing to multiply the x squared by, so we just leave it. Okay, so we're going to practice this a lot more as we move throughout the lesson. So we're just going to get into some examples now. So let's use distributive property to solve these questions. So part A, 3 times 2x minus 5. So the distributive property tells us take the coefficient outside of the brackets and multiply it by each term inside of the brackets. So let's do the first one. 3 times 2x, remember, just multiply the number parts together, so the 3 times 2. So 3 times 2x is 6x, and then 3 times the negative 5 is negative 15. Okay, now you'd look to see if there's anything that you can simplify, but there isn't, because 6x and the negative 15 are not like terms. So we're finished. Okay, part B. We need to multiply the 2 outside of the brackets by every term inside of the brackets. So 2 times 2x squared, multiply the number parts together, so we get 4 and then x squared. Now 2 times 3x, so 2 times 3 is 6, and then add in the x that's there. And now 2 times 1, which is just 2. Okay, now scan this equation. Are any of these like terms? No, they're not, right? This guy has an x squared variable. This guy just has an x as a variable, and this guy doesn't have a variable. So there's no like terms, so we're done the question. Okay. This one has 2 sets of distributive property, right? 2 sets of brackets with numbers out in front. So we just have to do distributive property twice. So first, negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x, because negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and then we have an x as well. And then negative 2 times negative 5. Remember, multiplying 2 negative numbers together gets you a positive answer. So negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. Okay, now let's do distributive property on the second set of brackets. So positive 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. And positive 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. Okay, now let's scan the equation and see if we have any like terms. And we do, right? Negative 6x and negative 4x are like terms, so we can combine them. And 10 and negative 20 are like terms, so we can combine those as well. So negative 6x minus 4x is negative 10x, and then 10 minus 20 is minus 10. Okay, and that's finished because these guys are not like terms, we cannot combine them. All right, let's try this example here. We have 3 sets of distributive property. So 6 times x is 6x. 6 times positive 5 is positive 30. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8. Now, you might be looking at this third set of distributive property and say, what's the number out in front of the brackets? I just see a negative sign. Well, remember, 1 is a number that mathematicians don't write down. So, if you just see this negative sign, assume it is negative 1. Okay? So, negative 1 times x is negative 1x. But remember, mathematicians don't write the 1 as a coefficient, so you can just write it as negative x. And then negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. All right, let's combine like terms. So let's combine all our x's together and then all of our plain numbers together. So 6x minus 2x is 4x minus another x is 3x. And then 30 minus 8 is 22. Minus another 7 is 15. Okay, and that's finished because there's no like terms to combine. All right, this is the most difficult type of distributive property you will get in grade 9 because the term outside of the brackets, now it's not just a number, it also has a variable with an exponent. So we're going to incorporate our exponent rules from the last lesson. So remember, multiply the number with numbers in the terms and multiply the variable part with other variable parts. I'll show you what I mean by that. Remember, this guy has a 1 here. So we need to multiply the 4x squared by the 1x cubed, and we need to multiply the 4x squared by the 2x squared. So let's start with the first set. 4x squared times 1x cubed. So multiply the number parts together first. So 4 times 1 is 4. Then multiply the variable parts together. So the x squared times the x cubed. Okay? And if you remember from yesterday, x squared times x cubed, use the product rule which says keep the base, add the exponents. So we get x5. All right, now let's do 4x squared times 2x squared. So multiply the number parts first. So 4 times 2 is 8. Multiply the variable part second. So the x squared times the x squared. So x squared times x squared. Keep the base and add the exponents. Okay? Now we're finished here because these are not like terms. We can't combine an x to the 5 with an x to the 4. For them to be like terms, they would have to have the same number for their exponent. All right, so I'm going to end this lesson with some steps. Okay, and we followed these steps every time we did a question. So whenever you were given an expression and there was an opportunity to use distributive property, here's what you would do. First, multiply the number or the term outside of the brackets by everything inside of the brackets, right? So draw those arrows, multiply it by everything inside of the brackets. And also just be aware that you might have to use your product rule. Okay, if you're multiplying a variable with an exponent with another variable and an exponent. Then look for like terms and simplify.